Hello and welcome to The Better Part. Our guest today is a gentleman who has a second career as a voice actor. This is what he does in his retirement. Please stay tuned.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
And now your host of today's Better Part, Phil Lenahan.
Hello, I'm Phil Lenahan. I'm your host today for The Better Part. We'll be meeting with Dana Manks today, and he'll be talking about his second career in voice acting. Dana, please tell us how you got into this, and what did you do before voice acting?
First of all, thank you very much for having me on The Better Part. I started my career as a programmer with IBM many years ago, and did that for about 15 years, and then I got into marketing. And as part of the marketing aspect of IBM, I did a lot of presentations. And when I left IBM, I went to work for some other companies, Hewlett-Packard, Oracle, and a number of startups. And throughout that process, I was doing a lot of presentations. And one of the things that I kept hearing was, wow, you've got a great voice. So when my last company was bought by my first company, I decided now's the time to do something different. I started doing this in 2008 when I was with my last company. We decided to start doing some podcasting. So I gathered the equipment and started learning how to do the recording and the delivery of podcasting. And when I decided to go out on my own, it was a pretty natural thing to say, okay, I've got the equipment, I've got the training, I've got the capabilities. I need to figure out the business aspects of this and get started on it.
Well, what type of voice jobs do you get, and what do you do?
Well, the voice acting really falls into about 14 different markets. So for instance, there's radio and TV commercials. You see commercials every day when you watch television. When you listen to the radio, you hear commercials, and each one of those employs some kind of an actor, a voice actor, and on TV sometimes it's a live action actor. And what they will be doing is delivering the message for the company. That's a form of voice acting. Another one is non-broadcast voiceover. So for commercial or industrial purposes, I'm working with a company now in Atlanta who wants to do a kiosk video for their product. So I'm going to be talking to them later today and doing some recording for them as well. Another aspect of that is videos. So a company wants to put their best foot forward. They want to have a video. A voiceover is a great way to deliver their message and be able to show their product or their service at the same time. So we've got some examples of that. There are another aspect of voiceover is telephony. When you call up some company, you hear, "Thank you for calling ABC Company, press 3 to," and that is all done by some kind of a voice actor. So there is a lot of work to be done there as well. Another area is e-learning. If you want to take a course online, e-learning requires some kind of voiceover work to teach you the material and to quiz you on the subject. And then the other one that I do is local radio and TV spots. For instance, Radio Cupertino, part of the Cupertino City Hall activity, runs public service announcements all day, every day, unless there is an emergency. In the case of an emergency, it becomes an emergency channel. But in the meantime, they're running messages of interest. So for instance, let's listen to one of the public service announcements I do for Radio Cupertino.
Okay.
The Cupertino Host Lions Club will feature its annual wild game feed on Thursday, June 14th at Naprodac Hall, located at 770 Montague Expressway in San Jose. The event begins at 5 p.m. with dinner served at 7:15 p.m. The menu features such items as roasted wild boar, venison stew, octopus, crab, salmon, selected drinks, and much more. For more information, including how to purchase tickets, please contact Howard Jensen at 408-209-7251.
That was nice. I get a feeling for your voice, but continue on your discussion about other facets of this, I was going to say hobby, this career of yours.
Yes, I don't consider it a hobby, but it is a lot of fun. Another aspect would be audiobooks. People buy a lot of audiobooks to play when they're in the car, when they're exercising, whatever they're doing. They want to listen rather than read. And each one of those is done by a voice actor. And most of those gigs go to either the author or some well-known actor who's reading. Another one is movie trailers. You go to the movies and you sit down before the main feature. There are a number of movie trailers that are run, and each one of them has a voiceover. That's, again, a very limited activity, limited group of people who are involved in that activity. There's animation. When you turn on a cartoon, that's all voice acting. Some of those are celebrities, some of those are professional voice actors, and it's a very lucrative gig. Also, the video game industry is growing by leaps and bounds, and that uses a lot of voice.
And now that we're getting these animated movies, I assume those are also need voices for every person in those movies.
Absolutely. The voice actors for those movies are generally going to be celebrities because that's how they get people to come to it, because starring Johnny Depp or starring whoever it is. That's how they get people into the theater, but then they're telling a story.
Okay, while you were talking about this, I just thought that some voices have name recognition.
Great movie, The March of the Penguins. Morgan Freeman's voice is throughout that. And that was a great voice acting gig for him. And there are a number of stars of stage and screen who are constantly in animation and voiceovers in movies.
What prepared you for getting into this?
There were a number of classes I took on presentation skills when I was with IBM and HP and Oracle. And actually I began to teach those classes after a while. But it prepared me to be able to deliver the message, to be able to punch up those parts that are more important, to provide the right kind of emphasis, to maintain the eye contact that is necessary for those kinds of presentations. And using those skills and then learning the recording and editing and voice, microphone skills that go along with voice acting was how I got prepared. I took some classes. I've done a tremendous amount of self-study in order to be able to get to this point. And I don't think I'm a great voice actor. I think I'm good at it. And I think that some of my work is showing that.
What was your first gig in this path to this new career?
Well, the first gig was right in this studio. I contacted the head of KMVT and introduced myself, told him what I wanted to do, and he said, "Yeah, come on in. We've got a commercial we want to do, and why don't you come in and read for it?" And so I came in and I read for it. It was for Mountain View Schools. It was a great commercial they were putting together. But then the producers ultimately wanted a child's voice, and I unfortunately don't qualify for that.
I can imagine that. How did it progress after that?
After that, it was a matter of marketing myself and being able to connect with people. So it really boils down to networking. It's very much like the auditioning process for regular on-screen or on-stage actors. And they decide who's going to get that role. In voice acting, that's done electronically, and you record an audition, you send it in, and the producer will listen to somewhere between 5 and 100 voice files, and he will decide who it is he wants to do that. That is an approach that casts a very broad net. I like to do that and also augment it by using my own networking. During my years in tech, I made a lot of contacts, and I keep going back and reminding them that I'm doing voiceover, and from time to time they will say, "Hey, we need a voice, and can you come and do this for? Can you record this for us?" And that's where most of my professional work is coming from right now. Through networking. I hope to ramp up the auditioning process here in the next month or so.
Then do you get return calls, some producers who liked your voice and call you first, or they usually go out for a general call?
No, it really depends on the producer and the relationship that I develop with them when I don't actually see them and sit down with them. But what I really want is for the return business, for people to call back and say, hey, we want you to be the voice of our company. And that's the kind of return business I'm really hoping to get. Right now, I have my own website. I've got a newsletter that goes out occasionally when I have something to say. I try not to bombard people with too much information or inane information. When I've got something to say, something that's been accomplished, then I send that out in my newsletter just to remind people, hey, I'm here.
And does your newsletter carry with it voice samples?
No, I don't generally include that, but there are links to the voice samples on my website.
So on your website, you have a lot, like a library of things that you have done?
Yes. Primarily, it's my demos. So, for instance, let me play my commercial demo for you.
Okay, let's listen to this.
Cafe Vienna, with that old-fashioned Viennese taste. Just perfect for catching up and looking back.
If you're ever near Durango, Colorado, you'll find a road to the sky, where 100 years ago men searched for the silver and gold they saw there. There are over 1 million miles of road in Alamo territory.
Do you know someone who deserves a sweet surprise? Send the FTD Sweet Surprise Bouquet. It's fresh flowers and M&M candies in a colorful M&M bowl. A fun way to share just about any sentiment. You gotta see it to believe it. For a limited time, the whole store is on sale. That's right, every item is reduced significantly. And get this, we've got over 100 different computer systems ready for immediate blowout. Eddie Bauer specializes in keeping people comfortable outdoors. But you can't be comfortable if you're afraid of getting dirty. Enter Seattle Suede. Functional, durable, comfortable, and extremely low maintenance. All the comfort and style of genuine suede leather, minus the hassle of dry cleaning.
Very nice. I don't think that would work with a guy from New York with a big accent.
You can't be too sure about that because they're looking for all kinds of voices for different kinds of roles.
Well, that is true, but I've always heard about this neutral voice. I guess that's more for newscasters?
The accent neutral, yes. They want people from Middle America. You don't want too much of a Southern drawl because then the people in the South will identify, but the people in the upper Midwest who speak with very long A's, they won't identify. So somewhere Kansas, Missouri, Middle America kind of accent that blends everything, enunciates well, and is able to deliver messages without overwhelming you with the particular accent.
Okay, how do you get listed? Are there agencies, special agencies? I'm familiar with some of the talent agencies. I assume they do voiceover. But are there specialty agencies? Or?
Well, there are agents who will specialize in voiceover, but as with any kind of an agency, they want to spend their time and effort working with the people who will bring in the most jobs and the most lucrative jobs. Mm-hmm. So if you're a beginning voice talent, you usually are in the back of the bottom drawer and not right up on top of the desk with the big boys. There are a number of ways that people get these jobs. Primarily, it's through the audition process. The audition process in today's internet environment is very democratized, meaning that anybody can get into it if you've got the right connections, and the barrier to entry is relatively low. You spend a couple of $100 on equipment, you spend a couple of $100 on training, you're into it for maybe $1,500, $2,000, and you can call yourself a voice actor and be able to go out there and compete for the jobs. Now, there are a couple of agencies, if you will, marketplaces on the internet. One's called voices.com, another one's called Voice123, And they allow people like yourself, a producer of a show, to say, I have this job, here's what it's going to be, how many words, here's how much money I've got to be able to put into it. And it's open to all the people who are, and what kind of a voice they want. And it's open to everybody who qualifies in that marketplace. So then they will receive 100 or 200 voice files, which they have to listen to and say, which one of these is the one that I want? The problem with auditioning is that you have about 10 seconds of producer's attention time to be able to get your message out there saying, I'm the right talent for this. So as you heard on my demo, I start out with a very, very soothing voice, and then I've got a very rough voice that goes in the second one, and then a very exciting and enthusiastic one later on. So they're listening. If they don't hear what they're listening for in the first 10 seconds, then they scratch that one, go on to the next one, because they have a limited amount of time to make these decisions.
Yeah, take it off.
Yes.
We're all surprised when we hear a recording of our own voice, because we hear our voice obviously echoing through our skull, and we don't hear it as it comes out purely out of a recording device or something that catches our voice. How do you feel about listening to your own voice when you hear it?
Well, it's going to be too egotistical to say I really love it.
Oh, say it.
On the other hand, I like the sound of my voice. I like the mellow aspect of it, and I think that's something that I can bring to the table for somebody. People are looking for specific kinds of voices, and there are a couple of different approaches to that. One is an instructor. You want to be didactic, you want to give information. A second one would be the real person, the guy next door, the one who wants to advise you about a dentist or a doctor or an insurance agent. You need to be very friendly with that kind of a voice. There's the spokesperson who will stand up and say, hey, this is the greatest product we've ever seen, and be able to deliver that message. And then a narrator in a film, being the omniscient storyteller there. So when you listen, well, let me start over here. When you hear your own voice for the first time, it's very different, as you said, because you're not hearing it the way you hear it when you speak. We speak, our voice comes out of our mouths, and it gets recorded somewhere and then reproduced and comes into our ears. When we hear ourselves talking, it's because of the bone conduction to our ears. So if you think about old-time radio, if you've seen films or videos or TV shows where an announcer is standing in front of a microphone with his hand over his ear, that's to funnel the sound directly to the ear, and you hear it differently than you do. You can all try this at home. Hold your hand over your ear and talk into the heel of your hand, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. So that is usually unusual for people. But in today's day and age with voicemail, you hear voices in a telephonic situation very differently than we have in the past. So the human ear can detect sounds as low as 20 hertz or 20 cycles per second up to 20,000 cycles per second. So very wide range. When you pick up a telephone, in order to be able to fit all the conversations that you want onto that telephone line, you have to reduce the bandwidth that you're transmitting to about 3,100 hertz. So instead of 20,000, you're down to 3,000. And that makes your voice sound different. So people don't really like the way their voice is reproduced a lot of times, or they say, wow, who is that? Or do I really sound like that? And once you get over the idea of, yeah, I really do sound like that, then you can embrace it and start doing some things with it.
Okay, what do you do when you get a script? So you have a script, you've got the job. How do you know the inflections? And you did touch about some of the personalities of the voice that goes with it, but how do you get the final product to be the right deliverable voice?
Well, it really comes down to the same things that actors go through when they are looking at a script. You look at the script and you analyze it, and you start thinking about, who am I talking to? what is the message that's trying to be delivered here? How can I best deliver that message? And what I will typically do is read through that script 4 or 5 times before I start recording, and then I will record it 4 or 5 times and pick the best one out of that. But really what it gets down to, as with all acting, it comes down to artistic choices. Do I want to enunciate this particular word? Do I want to emphasize this particular word? How will that flow? Am I bringing out the client's name appropriately in this process? And how can I best make sure that the message gets delivered? So, for instance, we can show one of the videos that I've done recently that is a voiceover, and it's promoting an organization.
Okay, let's cut to that.
Searching for a different kind of place for your group's next retreat? A place where the natural world meets inspiration? A place to test boundaries and challenge your mind and body? A place where your group's objectives are held in the highest consideration? A place for exploration. Located in the coastal redwood forest not far from the Pacific Ocean, Westminster Woods is a destination for adventure, with a web of hiking trails, a one-of-a-kind playground for the kids, and renowned local bicycling roads. For the thrill of self-discovery and group building, our state-of-the-art challenge course will test your limits and exhilarate. You will be encouraged and supported by our skilled, certified staff. Interested in discovery of the natural world? The redwood forest teems with creatures and a dazzling spectrum of plant life. Dutchbill Creek is a tributary of the Russian River and an important home to salmon and trout. The Pacific Ocean is a 20-minute drive from Westminster Woods. Historic Occidental offers shopping, dining, and lots of local art. Enjoy golf at Northwood or canoeing and fishing on the Russian River. A place for rejuvenation. The serenity of the wood's natural beauty inspires reflection and engenders renewal. Hike through the forest to one of our scenic vistas, enjoy one of our meditation centers, or walk the stone labyrinth. Indulge yourself in one of the many services at a nearby world-class spa. Our talented kitchen staff prepares healthy, delectable meals that nourish body and soul. A place to build community. An intentional retreat is an ideal and necessary element of bringing groups together. Our caring staff takes deep interest in meeting your group's needs. We care for the details so you can focus on your goals. We'll work with you to create your ideal program. We offer indoor meeting spaces and outdoor amphitheaters, giving you flexibility. Group cabins, deluxe housing, and a seasonal outdoor tent camp offer a range of accommodations. We invite you to experience the natural peace, beauty, and inspiration of Westminster Woods for yourself. Call us to arrange a visit. Westminster Woods. Real people, real connections, solid ground.
Very nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Where do you do your production? Do you go to studios, or do you have to hire a studio? Or where do you do it?
Well, 20 years ago, you had to go into a studio, which meant that voice actors really had to be located in New York City or in Los Angeles. And then there were minor markets, there were small radio markets, and studios are all over the country. You can go rent time, but it becomes very expensive. With the advent of the internet and the advent of the less expensive but really good quality microphones, people can afford to create a studio in their own environment. So I've found a spot within my house that has no windows, that has a lot of sound dampening within it. I've treated it, and I've done some more sound dampening within that space. And that's where I do my recording. So if the gardener's out in front with a leaf blower, I have to wait a while. I'm in the landing pattern for Moffett Field. Sometimes I have to re-record a few things if it's time for the jets to be coming in for a landing. But aside from that, it's a relatively quiet spot in the house, and I can then in post-production remove whatever little noise remains and be able to process my voice in what's called a dry read without any music or anything underneath it.
And then you can deliver the product electronically to any place in the world, basically.
Exactly. Most people want a WAV file, which is an uncompressed sound file. Some people want an MP3, which is a compressed sound file. There are a number of different file formats that I can create. There are agencies and companies on the internet that will allow you to be able to connect with a director while you are doing the recording. Least of which is the telephone, but there are also some internet connections you can have, and I can then also upload my file to a service that will make it easy for the producer to download it and be able to run with it.
So can you work with a producer on your computer in something like Skype, and they're talking to you about what they want, and then you can record your sample and they can comment on it all live at the same time?
Skype is one of the processes you can use. You can also use Skype for an interview if you wanted to do an interview across the internet. You could record that, and just like we're talking now, you could talk through Skype.
Well, thank you for joining us today on The Better Part, and it was fun. I learned a lot and a lot of information, so when I hear actors now, I think I'll have a better appreciation for it. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
Well, that's another edition of The Better Part. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today about voice acting, and maybe you have a unique voice that can be used commercially when you retire. See you next week.